Welcome to this morning's committee hearing. I'm joined today by my friend and colleague, Marquise Harris Dawson. Mr. Clerk, how do you recommend we move forward today? What I'm thinking, we take the public comment and then go straight to the agenda. So if you and the city attorney concur, I'd like to start off with public comment. And I'd like to call up Mr. Herman. No, in fact, I want to call up Mr. Where's Mr. Previn? So, okay, if I can get Mr. Previn, Mr. James Wright, Mr. Herman. Mr. Previn, the floor is yours. We'll give you 2 minutes.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Eric Previn from Studio City, and obviously this is a special meeting because it's not the typical time. We just got about 8 or 10 people in here, maybe 20, but outside we have thousands, and I'm not sure why. I think it's because of your upcoming rollout about backing away from the Koreatown facility.
Stay on the subject.
Yeah, no, I'm going to get right to it, sir. It's a municipal bank, and it's about accountability. And whereas I empathize with the folks who are trying to do business, and I've taken note of Bloomingfield's cashless initiative, to try to take the... I am not very happy about the way the weed regulation has gone, and consequently a municipal bank run by this outfit draws my attention to the council file 13-0849, which is where you signed as the mayor a big tax giveaway for some guy. So we can't have a municipal bank housed right up in here. We can barely run the Office of Finance in a fair and equitable way. So what I would recommend is, and I know you're just trying to get it so that it's possible to do it later, perhaps when things are more calmed down, but this has been a tumultuous week for the folks, in a lot of ways. We've got the union's taking a potential 33% hit in a very, very worrisome and scary way, but maybe it's going to be for the better, because maybe it's going to say, a union that would say, let's not bother having a debate, because we're good with the incumbents. Maybe that union needs to be readjusted a little bit. We still want to protect the workers, and I think I'm doing that 24/7. And by the way, here's to Ocasio-Lopez in New York, in the Bronx. I'm from that neighborhood, and we're very proud of the fact that there is still a democratic socialist, and I can say it out loud because it means taking care of the people, not having press conferences during the public meetings, and not shrinking down during public meetings the public speakers to hashtag Bloomingfield's nose. That's not cool, and I appreciate you're trying to meet down here secretly before everyone comes in to give you some kind of cheer or the opposite. Thank you.
Okay, so do I have Mr. Kwan, are you here? Mr. Herman, come on up, Mr. Herman. James Wright. Mr. Herman.
Who's Mr. Kwan?
Mr. Herman, just come on.
I'd like to be in order, sir. So item 8, Mr. Huzar's report, federal banking regulations. Well, I am the legislative body of this city, and I demand that the federal Department of Justice investigate these regulations of punishing the services that you never took for account that belong to we the people. Like Mr. DeLeon back there is waving his head, I'm right.
Let's stay on the subject, Mr. Herman.
And as you already know, DBA, state fucking business, is my complaint. I have the right to talk about marijuana and related firms that take advantage of poor business owners who wish to sell under DBA Kush. Loving it, baby. Then I go into item 1 regarding communication from Mr. Keebler, the attorney to my right, the ballot resolution by municipal banks. Once again, another issue of corruption, fraud, and embezzlement. Thank you for showing up late, Mr. Weezar.
Stay on the subject,
Calling a special election on the measure of Measure M, like I was at the Metro building, dealing with state general elections to be held on the South Bay, in which we beat Mayor Eric Garcetti in opposition because he wanted to push forth a so-called no transparency to Metro. So in closing rebuttal, Mr. Wesson, buy the goddamn property from so-called Mr. Wayne Spindler, and you will solve all your fucking problems, you moron.
Thank you. Please come forward.
Good morning. My name is James Wright. I'm here with Public Bank LA. I would just like to speak on the motion to
Go ahead.
put the amendment on the ballot this November. I'd like to thank the City Council and the City Attorney for their responsiveness in addressing this issue. I think the language in the measure for the item on the ballot in November will significantly empower the council to do whatever it needs to do to create the public bank, and I'm excited to be able to participate in the movement. I thank you again for your time and your hard work on this measure, and I look forward to being able to vote on it in November.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. So if I can get Melissa Michelson, is Mr. Kwan here? Mr. Spindler. Yes, welcome.
Hello. My name is Melissa Michelson. I'm a native of Los Angeles. I'm the president of Feel the Burn Democratic Club of LA County, which is a coalition partner to Public Bank LA. Feel the Burn is made up of hundreds of the most progressive and active Democrats in LA County. In March, the club unanimously passed a resolution to support the creation of a municipal bank in LA. And then the following month, we put forth that resolution to the LA County Democratic Party, which also passed. It's now on its way to the California Democratic Party in July for hopeful passing too. Please vote yes on this item. You have the full support of the community, activists, and Democrats in LA County. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spindler. And Trinity, are you here? Okay, you're next.
Trinity is. So thank you so much for this historic meeting. Today, we begin to open up our very own fucking bank. Today, we will begin to have unlimited money to buy any fucking thing we want, as long as we can trick the voters into passing it. This November. Now, to fool the people, don't do what Mr. Felipe Fuentes did on Measure RRR. This time, what you need to do is draft this ballot and do public outreach with me, Pepita Pig, and Mr. Spindler. Because if you get us to support you and go to all of your meetings in the Valley, you will certainly get this to pass. But if you get our opposition, Mr. Wesson, like in 2016, down the fucking drain this will go. So please convince us that you want our support, right?
Well, yeah.
Yes, so okay, very good. But now we have other shit on the agenda, though. See, tricky. So we want to go to Washington to lobby for all kinds of neat shit, like keeping families together. You're not going to keep families together as long as the Republicans control the fucking Congress. First, you have to get the Republicans out of the fucking House of Representatives. But you won't do it. And the reason you won't do it, because of shit like Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters shitting and pissing all over the fucking country. They keep scaring all the white people. You have to remember, before we have our socialist takeover,
We seem to
we
have
to look
veered
like
off of the agenda,
little
Mr. President.
It's not
Look
his
like
fault.
little
Thank you,
lambs.
Mr. Spindler. Thank you, Mr. Spindler. Please get out of the way. Okay. Trinity, if you could bring some sanity.
Thank you. Thank
We
you,
would
council
appreciate
members.
it.
Okay. Right now, across the nation, over 15 pieces of legislation for public banks are currently being explored through state and local governments. Never before in history have we seen this much directed energy towards a real viable solution to extractive predatory Wall Street banks. Los Angeles now has the opportunity to be the leading force to take financial control back from the outside influence of big banks to provide local determination and opportunity and so for socially and environmentally responsible investments here in Los Angeles. We ask the committee to approve the motion to realign the state election with the special election with the state general election on November 6th. On behalf of Revolution LA, Public Bank LA Coalition, Divest LA, and the California Public Banking Alliance, as well as dozens of public banking movements building right now across the country, public banking is an idea whose time has come, and the people of Los Angeles are behind you. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there Patrice? Mr. Kwan? Okay, that ends public comment. Let's go through the items. Morning.
Richard Williams, City Clerk's Office. The following are the items on the agenda. Item number 1 is a communication from the City Attorney, resolutions and ordinances relative to an amendment to the City Charter to establish a municipal bank and calling a special election to be held on November 6, 2018. This is a time limit file. Last day for council action is July 3rd, 2018. This matter is in council today at 10 a.m. Item number 2 is motion Bonin Krikorian for Martinez Cedillo et al. Relative to a request to the city attorney to file an amicus brief in the matter of Miss L et al. Versus United States Immigration and Customs, ICE, which seeks an injunction preventing ICE from separating plaintiffs and other class members from their children. Item number 3 is resolution Rue Buscaino and Chief Legislative Analyst, CLA report relative to the city's position on H.R. 5233 and S. 2522, which would automatically grant citizenship to those adopted by U.S. citizens as children. Item number 4 is resolution Martinez-Wesson and CLA report relative to the city's position on legislation or administrative action which would aid migrant families that have been separated by the United States Department of Homeland Security. Item number 5 is resolution Bonin, Krikorian, Cedillo, Huizar et al. And CLA report relative to the city's position on the Keep Families Together Act, Feinstein, that would prohibit an agent or officer of the United States Department of Homeland Security from removing a child from his or her parent or legal guardian at or near the United States border or point of entry. For the record, a community impact statement has been received from the Greater Echo Park Elysian Neighborhood Council on this item. Item number 6 is resolution Cedillo Martinez and CLA report relative to the city's position on any fast-tracked or expeditious action that may augment or help the passage of the Keep Families Together Act. Again, a community impact statement has been received from Greater Echo Park Elysian Neighborhood Council on this item. Item number 7 is resolution Koretz Bonin and CLA report relative to the city's position on Senate Bill 3036, which would prohibit border officials from separating families at the border. Again, a community impact statement has been received from Greater Echo Park Elysian Neighborhood Council on this item. Item number 8 is resolution Blumenfield, Huizar, and CLA report relative to the city's position on S1152, which would prohibit federal banking regulators from punishing a financial services provider for doing business with a state-compliant marijuana-related firm. Item number 9 is resolution Martinez-Wesson and CLA report relative to the city's position on AB 1913, which would clarify existing state law by adding foreign agricultural labor contractors to the existing foreign labor contractor registration program. Item number 10 is resolution Huizar, Harris Dawson, and CLA report relative to the city's position on legislation or administrative action to identify state-owned properties that can be used as housing and or facilities to address homelessness. Item number 11 is a resolution Martinez Koretz and CLA 2 report relative to the city's position on AB 813, which proposes to expand the California Independent System Operator into a multi-state regional transmission organization. Item number 12 is resolution Martinez-Wesson and CLA report relative to the city's position on urging the United States Department of Health and Human Services to reevaluate proposed rules that are dangerous to women and their reproductive and health care. And item number 13 is Resolution Rue Huizar and CLA-2 report relative to the city's position on H.R. 2358, which would award a Congressional Gold Medal to the Chinese American veterans of World War II.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Members, again, I'm joined by Mr. Weezer and Mr. Harris Dawson, so the full committee is present. Do either one of you have any questions or concerns? I believe these items could be dealt with on a consent calendar. Mr. Weezer?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And there's quite a bit of resolutions here and items that deserve our full attention. But obviously, one of the ones that's a bit more concerning to many of us is the federal activity with respect to separating our children. And I'm thankful and want to thank you for scheduling these items as soon as possible. Since these motions were introduced, there has been an effort by our president to claim that he is not in favor of separating families, but in fact, those that have been separated, there is no end in sight. Many children continue to not know where their parents are, and many parents don't know where their children are. There's an effort nationally right now to see what we could all do to bring those families back together. And so anything and everything the city can do to put a stop to the separation of families and to reunite families. I hope that these motions get the intent of what we're trying to accomplish. And although the landscape has changed a little bit, as we move these forward, we hopefully can fulfill our goals. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for scheduling these items as quickly as possible.
Oh, thank you. It's the right thing to do. Okay, Mr. Clerk, why don't on item 1, let's adopt the city attorney's report, resolutions, and draft ordinance. On item number 2, we will adopt the motion. On items 3 through 13, we will adopt the CLA reports and resolutions. So without objections from my colleagues, these items will be deemed approved. Is there any further business before this committee?
No, sir, that clears the desk.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. No, Mr. Spindler did speak. Okay, so there's no further business before this committee. Then this committee's adjourned.